Welcome to Strip Cover Lit, where we squeeze the bigger picture out of literature. I'm Adrian Ford, and we're here for the fifth in a 13-part series as we journey chapter by chapter through Under the Volcano by Malcolm Lowry. And this was a much different chapter than we've had thus far. This was a chapter that was very grounded, was very centralized, was very, I want to say focused, which would be unfair to the other chapters, but focused. It was focused in on one thing, and that one thing was Joffrey's drunkenness. So what happened here, we're back with Joffrey as he thrashes about, he sloshes about. He's drunk. He's very drunk. Again, so drunk that he's literally speaking out loud to himself, having a conversation, sort of, with himself. Until his neighbor Quincy comes up to him, discovers him there in the lawn. He's outside in the lawn, sloshing about. And he has become detached from his bottle of liquor. And it causes something of a... Oh, I lost my pen. I shot my pen all over the place, like Joffrey with his bottle of liquor. It causes something of a crisis within himself. Then he talks with Quincy. Quincy is sort of making fun of him. But even with Quincy there, Quincy, who does not seem very sympathetic to Joffrey, he doesn't seem to relish in making fun of Joffrey. He does it seemingly out of habit. And then he talks to Quincy until he pisses himself and retreats into the house. He loses himself in the house. And eventually Hugh and Devon show up. And they have sort of been making plans to go out until Joffrey falls back into his fever dream. And that is where we end the chapter. But we have early indicators in the chapter of where Joffrey's mind is at. On page 134, in this garden, which he hadn't looked at since the day Hugh arrived, when he'd hidden the bottle, and which seemed carefully and lovingly kept, there existed at the moment certain evidence of work left uncompleted. Tools, unusual tools, a murderous machete, an oddly shaped fork somehow nakedly impaling the mind, with its twisted tines glittering in the sunlight, were leaning against the fence, as also was something else, a sign uprooted or new, whose oblong pallid face stared through the wire at him. We have in this Joffrey's frame of mind. A murderous machete, somehow nakedly impaling. An oblong pallid face stared at him, that oblong pallid face being just a sign. This gives us Joffrey's state of mind. He is in a paranoid delirium. He is angry. He is suffering through, at times, delusions of grandeur, but at times, delusions of persecution. And it seems that they, in his conversation with Quincy, almost paragraph to paragraph, he switches back and forth. Grandeur to, or delusion, persecution to grandeur, persecution to grandeur. These are signs of an unstable individual. Why is he in this state of mind? Not just the drunkenness. We get this quote on the kissing page to that, 135. What he wanted, he now saw very clearly, was to talk to someone. That was necessary. But it was more, merely, than that. What he wanted involved something like the grasping at this moment of a brilliant opportunity, or, more accurately, of an opportunity to be brilliant. In these moments, Joffrey is feeling his vitality slipping away. It's not just, so, first off, it's not just that he feels he's capable of more than he's doing. He's also being slapped in the face with the fact, drunk on his ass as he is, that he's not right now capable of those things that he imagines himself to be capable. But it's not just that. No, it's not just that. Because the reason for which he wants to accomplish greater than normal or greater than average things is present. Yvonne. Yvonne has come back. He's failed Yvonne. He's failed Yvonne insofar as he has failed himself. And she's there. But so's Hugh. In fact, if you want to get technical, neither of them are there. They're off together. So we have here Joffrey in a very mentally precarious place. And in this chapter, he laughs. He laughs a lot. And I've never felt more sad for him. It is not laughter of joy. It's laughter almost of, well, screw it. Screw it. Why try? So we have this scene. Where am I at here? I'm sorry. On 147. Oh, yeah, no, here. On 130. So this moment where he is yearning to be what he thinks he can be while struggling against what he knows himself to be. The next page, 136, where he's waiting for this opportunity, this brilliant opportunity, or an opportunity to be brilliant. Yet this opportunity to be brilliant was, in turn, more like something else, an opportunity to be admired, even. And he could at least thank the tequila for such honesty, however brief its duration, to be loved. Loved precisely for what was another question. Since he'd put it to himself, he might answer, loved for my reckless and irresponsible appearance, or rather for the fact that beneath that appearance so obviously burns the fire of genius, which, not so obviously, is not my genius, but in an extraordinary manner that of an old and good friend, Abraham Taskerson, the great poet, who once spoke so glowingly of my potentialities as a young man. So in this moment, this next moment, on that very next page, he's not in the present. He's remembering. There were people who believed in me. Not just Yvonne. Not just Yvonne, who has wanted so much for me. There were people who actually believed in me. And here I am, pissing everything away. And this is during the conversation with Quincy in his yard. Quincy's cat has been parading about, and Quincy's cat has caught a butterfly. And this is on 147. Then the behavior of Mr. Quincy's cat began to fascinate him. The creature had at last caught the insect, but instead of devouring it, she was holding its body, still uninjured, delicately between her teeth, while its lovely, luminous wings, still beating, for the insect had not stopped flying an instant, protruded from either side of her whiskers, fanning them. I think we're tempted here, using the pronoun her. She has the bug caught in her teeth. We're tempted to maybe visualize that cat as Yvonne. It's not the case, I don't think. The cat's a predator. The cat is just doing what nature is just pursuing those goals to which nature has derelicted. Pre-derelicted? Is doing what cats do. The cat's doing what cats do. The cat has the butterfly. I think that cat is Joffrey in this moment. That cat has the butterfly of Yvonne in its teeth. It hasn't crushed her. He hasn't crushed Devon. But she doesn't know she stopped flying. So, carrying forward with this image of Yvonne as the butterfly, and with Joffrey in his natural state, the state of a drunkard, who doesn't feel he can escape what it is that he is. We get the rest of this quote. The consul stooped forward to the rescue, but the animal bounded just out of reach. He stooped again, with the same result. In this preposterous fashion, the consul stooping, the cat dancing just out of reach, the insect still flying furiously in the cat's mouth, he approached his porch. Finally, the cat extended a preparate paw for the kill. Opening her mouth, and the insect, whose wings had never ceased to beat, suddenly and marvelously flew out, as might indeed the human soul from the jaws of death, flew up, 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 soaring over the trees. And at that moment he saw them. They were standing on the porch. Yvonne's arms were full of bougainvillea, which she was arranging in a cobalt ceramic vase. We have here the scene set for Yvonne to fly up, 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 and away over the tree line. We have here some hope, perhaps, for Yvonne. And in that moment, who's left alone? The cat. In this moment, who was alone? Joffrey. Joffrey is returned to. Yvonne and Hugh have returned to Joffrey. Joffrey had been alone. So there is one more thing I want to talk about textually, and then I want to focus on a couple characters. On page 153, the consul lifted his glass to his lips, tasted its emptiness again, then set it on the floor, still wet from the feet of the swimmers. The uncontrollable mystery on the bathroom floor. He remembered that the next time he had returned to the porch with a bottle of Carte Blanca, though for some reason this now seemed a terribly long time ago. In the past, it was as if something he could not put his finger on had mysteriously supervened to separate drastically that returning figure from himself sitting in the bathroom. The figure on the porch, for all its damnation, seemed younger, to have more freedom of movement, choice, to have, if only because it held a full glass of beer once more, a better chance of a future. Yvonne, youthful and pretty-looking, in her white satin bathing suit, had been wandering on tiptoe round the doctor, who was saying, "Signora Furman, I am really disappointed, though you cannot come with me." There are entire novels that have less gravitas than does that one passage from this story. So I think this is a good time to really pipe up and say, it's okay, I think, to be lost from time to time in this book. This is dense. This is not a picket fence, it's a rock wall. And there's a lot of crevices in here, and they all have their own groove. The dense literature so dense as this is written to be reread. That's what it's meant for. It is meant to be read and reread and redigested. So I want to talk a little bit about the individual characters here. So I want to start with Joffrey. On 148, the faces of the last hour hovered before him, the figures of Hugh and Yvonne and Dr. Vigil moving quickly and jerkily now, like those of an old silent film. Their words mute explosions in the brain. Nobody seemed to be doing anything important, yet everything seemed of the utmost hectic importance. For instance, Yvonne saying, "We saw an armadillo." In this chapter, Joffrey is existing in a fever dream state. The fever dream state of having already cooked your brain with alcohol. To share a little bit about myself, I've been there. This chapter is what is known as a come to Jesus. There are those come to Jesus, which are moments, and there is a come to Jesus, which is an entire day. This come to Jesus is an entire day. This is a day where you wake up still drunk because you drank so much and you don't sober up until you pass out again. This is not accidentally in this book. This is a hallmark come to Jesus. And it is in here for purpose. We are here at the end of this chapter, 156 pages through 156 through 390 pages. So not quite halfway. This is exactly in a book where you would expect to find something so dastardly as a come to Jesus moment, as a come to Jesus day. I've had this day several times. When I was an undergraduate, I went from drinking a lot to being an alcoholic. Not diagnosed, but if you've ever lived in that world, when you know, you know. This carried me through. So I'm talking, look, I was working during the year I took off after graduating, working 3 jobs and still getting drunk every night. Not just drunk, but sloshed. This carried me all the way through grad school. There was a day in grad school where I had my come to Jesus. I had either the stomach flu or food poisoning twice within a month when I was out in St. Louis. I think it was food poisoning because I would get drunk at night, wake up, and grab something from the gas station on the way to the library to eat. Probably not a good idea. And so had food poisoning, I think, twice in a month. Still, nothing was as bad as one time I was supposed to meet a guy from work who was super religious. And I was an atheist, newly minted atheist. And as newly minted atheists are wont to do, I wanted to sort of test out some of my arguments. And we were going to meet at a coffee shop. And I woke up just like Joffrey is in this chapter. Not knowing you're still drunk. You don't know you're still drunk. You think everything's just a little bit off. And I met with that fella. And I couldn't remember how I got there. I couldn't remember later how I got home. I couldn't remember any of the conversation. Not good stuff. That's where we find Joffrey in this chapter. Joffrey is forgetting things as soon as they happen because he's still drunk. He says, "Oh, all I'm doing is drinking beer. I don't get drunk off beer." In this chapter, he says that. All I'm drinking is beer. I'm not drinking any tequila. No mescaline. So he should not, by his own measure, be drunk. But he's not drunk. He's still drunk. So this is a hallmark, like I said, this is a hallmark come to Jesus day. This is a day that you learn from, or you get knocked back on your ass, what might be permanently. So it's really hard to read this because it's so real. That is something for which I have to commend Lowry. There is no accident here that this sort of happens in the book. This is planted. And I think that what we're going to see going forward is that crossroad. What is it from this day, from these wasted moments, from this forgotten day? What is it that Joffrey chooses? Because there are consequences. Lastly, I want to talk about Yvonne. Do we feel sorry for her? Should we feel sorry for Yvonne? She loves Joffrey. She does. She, at least had romance with Hugh, if not an affair. I don't know that we have concrete evidence either way just yet, but at least romance. The two care for each other. The two can envision themselves in each other's lives. We get that, in the very least, from that previous chapter, if nothing else. Do we feel sorry for Yvonne, and should we? She left. She got out. She has her own life to live. She decided to come back. She decided to come back not for Joffrey, but to see if she could be with Joffrey. She's in a rough place. How do we fault her? She feels if Joffrey feels as if he has wasted his potential, Yvonne seemingly just feels old. She feels as if she's wasted her youth, wasted her beauty, wasted her... Joffrey feels he's wasted his potential to be great. Yvonne feels as if she's wasted her potential to have a life. At what point is someone held responsible for either one of those things? Can we fault Joffrey for wasting Yvonne's life? Yvonne had come back to him. Can we fault Yvonne for trying to choose love instead of pursuing a new life? I don't know. And at this point, the book doesn't lead us any direction. I think that Hugh being there is going to be what leads us some direction with Yvonne. She has options. She does not have to be there with Joffrey. What happened with Yvonne after she had left? Why is it that she finds herself back with Joffrey? How is it that she finds herself back with Hugh? She is someone... Look, could we blame her for having had an affair with Hugh? I don't think so. So we have in the novel two people at a crossroads. Yvonne returning to what was, and Joffrey, who has never left. Joffrey, who is still in the same place that he had been. And worse off for it, because he has not moved forward, but he's gotten older. Yeah, I think all this is really well done. Hits you where it hurts. So that is all I have for this, the 5th chapter, as we journey chapter by chapter through Under the Volcano by Malcolm Lowry. I hope to see you back. Look, I'm going to try to have this next chapter next week. The next chapter, I think, is 48 pages, something like that. So we're going to see. We're going to do our best, but there's a lot here to digest. So I have new videos on the channel every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Mondays are for poetry. I also have new videos on my personal channel Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, a link to which can be found in the description below.